Ever get that feeling? You know that feeling where it's like you're just like scratching the surface of a problem? Like
Mhm.
I don't know, like there's this whole hidden world of costs and inefficiencies in your operation that you haven't even thought about.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that iceberg thing, right? You only see the tip, but there's so much more lurking below.
Exactly. And today's deep dive, well, we're diving headfirst into one of those hidden cost icebergs. And it's in a place you might not expect.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Where are we headed?
Coolant management and machining.
Really? See, I would have thought coolant. That's pretty straightforward, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
I would think.
But we've got this awesome source from Zebra Skimmers called Inefficient Machining Coolant Practices Draining Your Profits. And let me tell you, this article, it is eye-opening.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the big takeaway?
They're basically saying even the most skilled machinist, the best of the best, is only as good as the coolant they're using.
That makes sense when you put it like that. Like, you could have a world-class surgeon,
Right.
but if they're operating with, like, dull scalpels,
Oof. Yeah.
the skill is there, but the tools, or in this case, the coolant, can really make or break the final results.
That is such a good analogy.
Yeah.
So for those of us out there who think coolant is just like, oh yeah, it keeps things from overheating, can you break it down? Why is it so vital in machining?
Okay, so imagine coolant as this multitasking marvel in the machining process. Yeah, so first you're right, it's about temperature control, preventing those workpieces from warping or the tools from overheating and getting damaged. But it's way more than that. Coolant is also acting as a lubricant, right? So it's reducing that friction and wear and tear, which, bonus, extends the life of your expensive tools.
Oh, that's smart.
And if that wasn't enough, coolant also flushes away those tiny metal chips that you get during machining.
Oh, right.
Keeps everything clean, prevents damage to the workpiece, ensures precision, and to top it all off, it even helps to prevent rust.
Wow, I honestly had no idea it played so many roles. It's like the unsung hero of the whole operation.
It really is. And that's why the Zebra Skimmers article is so interesting. They make this comparison about manual coolant management being like underutilizing a skilled employee, and it's spot on.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. How so?
It all comes down to time and expertise. They argue that having a skilled machinist, someone who's highly trained and paid for their expertise, handle manual coolant tasks, is like using a super precise, expensive tool for a really basic job.
Oh, like using a surgical laser to cut construction paper.
Exactly. You're wasting its potential, and more importantly, you're wasting that employee's valuable time. Zebra Skimmers points out all this time spent checking coolant levels, adjusting concentrations, or dealing with inconsistencies that could be spent on specialized work that actually requires their specific skills and training.
So it's like having Gordon Ramsay, like folding napkins instead of crafting a gourmet meal.
Yes, 100%. You're absolutely right. You're not fully utilizing their talents.
Yeah. So what kind of time are we talking about here? Like, is this really that significant?
Oh, it adds up. Think about it. Even if a machinist is only spending like, say, 30 minutes per shift on these manual coolant tasks,
Okay.
that's 2.5 hours per week, which is basically an entire day almost each month.
Wow, I would not have thought about it like that, but you're right.
And imagine the impact on productivity if they could dedicate that time to, higher value work.
That's a huge hidden cost.
Huge. And it's not just about wasted time. Zebra Skimmers also talks about inconsistency as a major issue with the manual approach.
Oh, right, because different people might do things a bit differently.
Exactly. Different employees, even with the best training, will have slightly different approaches, leading to those little variations in coolant quality.
Right, so even a small difference in, like, concentration or cleanliness or something.
Could impact the whole machining process, ultimately affecting the final product.
Yeah, consistency is key.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about human error. In a busy manufacturing environment, mistakes happen. Even the most skilled machinist can have a slip-up, especially when they're juggling multiple tasks.
Right. Things slip through the cracks.
Exactly. And when it comes to coolant, even a small error in mixing or monitoring can have some significant, costly consequences.
So it seems like we've got a bit of a conundrum here. On one hand, you've got this essential element in the machining process, this coolant that's impacting everything. But on the other hand, the traditional way of managing it manually, well, it's got these hidden costs, these inconsistencies, and it's really eating into productivity and potentially causing issues. What's the solution here? Is there like a magic wand we can wave?
Well, a magic wand might be pushing it, but there is a pretty impressive solution that's been making waves in the industry.
Okay, you've got to tell me more. What are we talking about here?
Coolant automation.
Coolant automation. Okay, so I'm picturing myself, right, walking onto a shop floor, and I see this coolant automation in action. Paint me a picture. What am I seeing that's different? What is this system actually doing?
Okay, so instead of having your skilled machinists running around checking levels and adjusting things manually, imagine this. A dedicated system that's like a silent guardian for your coolant. It's working tirelessly 24/7, completely behind the scenes.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Less work for the already busy team.
Exactly. So the system, it's constantly monitoring the coolant concentration.
And so it's making sure that the mixture is always perfect.
Exactly. Adjusting it automatically to maintain those ideal conditions for whatever operation is running.
Wow. So, like, no more relying on eyeballing it or maybe having slight variations between different batches?
Gone. And because it's all automated, you're taking human error out of the equation.
Right. Which brings us back to that consistency thing, right? Like every
Yeah.
batch, every single time, that coolant is going to be exactly how it needs to be.
Precisely. And that consistent, high-quality coolant translates into some pretty impressive benefits for the entire operation.
Okay, like what? Give me the rundown. What are the big wins here?
Big win number one, efficiency. With your coolant consistently at its best, you're going to see a boost in your overall efficiency. Tools will last longer, you'll reduce downtime caused by coolant-related issues, and the entire machining process, it just runs smoother.
Which in a fast-paced manufacturing environment, time is money, right?
100%. And then there's the waste reduction factor.
Okay, tell me more about that. How does automating things reduce waste?
Because an automated system is incredibly efficient with how it uses, cleans, and reuses the coolant. So you're not only saving money by purchasing less coolant over time, but you're also being environmentally responsible, which is a win-win in my book.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about efficiency, we've talked about less waste, but what about the impact on the actual employees, the people on the shop floor?
This is where it gets really interesting. By automating coolant management, you're essentially giving your skilled machinists the gift of time and focus. Remember those 2.5 hours per week we talked about?
Yeah, the ones that were basically disappearing into thin air because of manual coolant tasks.
Right. Well, those hours are now freed up. Instead of being bogged down with those manual tasks, your skilled workers can dedicate that time to what they do best, the high-value work that actually requires their expertise.
So they can finally put down the measuring cups and get back to those high-precision tasks they're trained to do.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone. The company benefits from increased productivity and efficiency, and employees are happier and more engaged because they're able to focus on the more rewarding aspects of their jobs.
Okay, so we've established that automated coolant management, it's a pretty sweet deal,
Hmm.
especially for any machine shop out there that's really trying to, step up its game, be more efficient, all of that. And speaking of stepping up their game, Zebra Skimmers, the company behind that article we've been talking about, they actually offer these automated systems.
They do.
They call them Dazzle systems, right?
Yeah, Dazzle. And from what I've seen, they've really built a really strong reputation in the industry, known for their innovative approach to coolant management.
But, I mean, there are a lot of systems out there, a lot of companies trying to do this. What makes Dazzle different? What makes them stand out? Why should our listeners really be paying attention to Zebra Skimmers?
That is the million-dollar question. And this is where I think those aha moments come in. Because Dazzle, it doesn't just automate the basics.
Yeah.
It takes it a few steps further with this big focus on precision, on being super user-friendly, and really being proactive.
I like it. So it's not just a set it and forget it kind of system.
Definitely not. And Zebra Skimmers really emphasizes this in all of their materials. For example, they talk about Dazzle's ability to maintain incredibly precise control over the coolant conditions.
So we're talking like consistent levels, temperature regulation, all of that.
All of that. And those things, they might seem like little details, but that level of consistency, it leads to some big results. Zebra Skimmers, they actually claim that their systems can extend tool life by up to 40%.
Wow, 40%. That's huge.
It is.
I mean,
Minimal training required, so it seems like they're trying to make it accessible for everybody.
that's so key.
Yeah.
What good is all this fancy technology if people are too intimidated to actually use it? But we've got to talk about the elephant in the room with any kind of technology.
Oh, yeah.
Maintenance. Because
Mhm.
even the best automated system in the world, stuff happens, right?
Of course, of course.
How does Dazzle handle those inevitable hiccups?
This is where I think the proactive thinking comes in. Because one of Dazzle's big features is the fact that it's constantly monitoring itself, looking for any potential problems, like a built-in early warning system.
Oh, so instead of some small issue turning into this massive shutdown, Dazzle is basically raising his hand saying, hey, something's a little off here. You might want to take a look at this.
Exactly. That foresight, that ability to catch things early can prevent those costly surprises, minimize that downtime, keep the production line humming along.
I love it. This has been such an interesting conversation. We really went deep on this. Started out talking about the hidden costs of manual coolant management. Then we dove into all the benefits of automation and even got into the specifics of what makes a system like Dazzle so unique.
Right.
But for our listeners out there who are saying, okay, this all sounds great, but what's the bottom line? What's the one big takeaway you really want them to walk away with today?
I think the big takeaway here is that coolant management, it shouldn't be an afterthought. It's a really strategic area. And even small changes can have a huge impact. Reduced costs, better efficiency, tools last longer, and even happier employees who get to really focus on what they do best.
I love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. And to our listeners, if this deep dive has you even a little bit curious, it might be time to ask yourself that question from Zebra Skimmer's article. Are you ready to take that next step? Ready for operational excellence?
It's a question worth thinking about because sometimes, as we've learned today, those overlooked areas, they hold the biggest potential for positive change.
So true. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of the Deep Dive. But keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and as always, keep diving deep.